Okay, so tonight's homework is on persuasive essay structure. At the end of tonight's tutorial, and I'm going to try really hard to not go or talk too much off of what's on the slide because I'm worried that it could be a little bit longer tonight, but you're going to understand the basic structure of body paragraphs and the counter-argument paragraph, as well as the conclusion. So again, anytime you see the pencil in the corner, because we've got some new students to the class that are doing these videos for the first time. So anytime you see the notes pencil in the corner, that means I need you to take notes. And remember, you don't have to write everything word for word that's on the slide. You can think of rule of 5 and kind of caveman style notes, abbreviations, and that sort of thing. As long as you can read it and understand it, that's all that really matters. Alright, so as far as body paragraphs are concerned, you should set the stage for the body of your essay in the introduction. So you should have in your intro clearly listed in order the topics that you're going to be discussing in the rest of the essay or your arguments. And I'm going to ask that you have at least 3 arguments, and then you'll have 1 paragraph for the counter argument. And you probably should do, the main structure that I would do actually is 3 arguments on your topic, the counter argument, and then the conclusion. And I really would advise that you stick to that setup so that you don't confuse your reader. Sometimes I've had students in the past that will write a counter argument in almost every single body paragraph, and that is just way too confusing. So try really hard to stick with your 3 main arguments, and we'll talk about how those paragraphs should be set up, and then the counter argument should be towards the end, right before the concluding paragraph. And then follow the plan as you go, that you list those in order in the intro. So however they're listed in the intro is the way that they should show up in the body of the paper. The first sentence of each paragraph is the topic sentence, and it lets the reader know what that paragraph is going to be about. Then all the rest of the sentences in the paragraph should include more details and description, and also should include a fact or a quote that you then use MLA in text citation so that you cite the source that you're using. So the first sentence, state your argument. This is what the paragraph is going to be about. This is your assertion, if we're going back to some of the other videos and how we've looked at this through the debate or the lens of the debate unit. The next couple of sentences, you should give your reasoning. It's the because part, and you're offering support for your argument. Finally, you should complete that paragraph with some evidence or support by using current or historical examples, facts and statistics, scientific information. If you ended up doing your own survey, which I know a lot of the groups did, you can use that information, and I can even teach you how to cite your own survey. Otherwise, if you want to look it up on your own, you can go to the Purdue OWL website, which I have listed at the bottom of this tutorial, and it will tell you all the different ways that you can cite sources. So, speaking of citing your own sources, general guidelines, the information you need to know from the source depends on what type you're using. Website, book, magazine, your own survey or interview, for example. That's going to look different depending on what source you're using. So most of our information is from a website, so that's what I'm going to focus on for right now. So if you have an article where an author was in fact listed, there's 2 ways that you can go about using these in a sentence. So all of these sentences, by the way, with these facts are all made up, so don't quote me on any of this information. But let's say you have an article that has an author listed, and we're going to say that this article, the author's name was Gary Smith. So you can either state the author's name in the sentence. Gary Smith stated that teenagers with cell phones tend to stay in contact with their parents throughout the day. Now you'll notice that I have the author's name here, and then I have the page number. Now, the only way you're going to have a page number in a website article is if you actually have to click like an arrow or go to the next page of information. Otherwise, you're probably not going to have a page number, so that last part you would just not include. You'll also notice that I have quotation marks, and that's just simply because I'm quoting exactly word for word what the part from the article said. Now, if I paraphrased it, I wouldn't necessarily need the quotes around it, paraphrasing meaning putting it in my own words. But if you're using it word for word from the article, you probably should use quotation marks. The other example would be to include the author's last name and the page number at the end. So teenagers with a cell phone tend to stay in contact with their parents throughout the day. And I see a typo here because, in fact, I should have a period at the end of that parenthesis where it says Smith 2, parenthesis, and then there should be a period right there. So look for a question in your bonus section on where Mrs. Carter made the error. Okay, so that would be the change in citation. So if you don't list the author in the sentence itself, then you need to list it in a parenthesis at the end. This is why this is either called in-text citation, or it's also called, you ready for it, parenthetical citations, which is a huge word, but that just means you're citing a source within parentheses. So another example is if you have a website that does not have an author listed, which for some reasons, more often than not, you'll find an article on the website or on the internet that does not have an author listed. So in that case, you're going to use the title of the article itself or the web page. So for my example here, according to the frequently asked questions page on Verizon website, currently 78% of teenagers in the United States own a cell phone. So I'm referencing that it came from the FAQ page on Verizon's website, and that it was actually on page 2 of all of their frequently asked questions. Otherwise, you could put it this way: 78% of teenagers in the United States own a cell phone, and I've shortened the title, which is totally fine. You can abbreviate and shorten the title. So I think sometimes when you look at websites, their titles can be super long and obnoxious if you include the entire thing in your paper. Okay, sorry about that. I got all distracted. The fire alarm was beeping, telling me I need to change the battery. Look for a secret question on that, by the way. Okay, continuing on. So as far as your counterargument paragraph is concerned, this can be a really tricky part. You really don't want to confuse your reader here. So make sure you state what the other side or the opposition might argue. And this can be stated in the very first sentence of the paragraph, but then the rest of the paragraph, you really want to use the details and examples to prove that your side is right or your point of view is right. So think of all the rebuttals that we practiced in class. It's really the same thing. You're going to state what the other side might say, and then you're going to prove them wrong. In fact, if you follow the 4-step rebuttal process throughout the paragraph, you'll really end up with a great counter-argument. But you have to remember to bring it back to your side. Otherwise, the reader, aka me, might get confused and think that you've switched sides and are starting to argue the other point. Okay, so as far as the conclusion is concerned, you should restate your thesis from the intro, summarize your main important parts from the essay, and use some of the same keywords from your intro in the conclusion as well. It should really include a lot of the same information as the intro, and I really want you to think or know that the conclusion should be several sentences. It really should not... Well, first of all, I had a lot of people in the career essay turn in a paper with no conclusion, and that's absolutely unacceptable. And not only did I have some people just not do a conclusion, but then I had some people that had a sentence, also unacceptable. A conclusion should really mimic the intro and be just as long as the intro. And know that my expectations is that it should be about 4 to 5 sentences in length. So please make sure that you do, in fact, include a conclusion. Alright, so you guys are finished. Don't forget to do the digital submission. Look for those secret bonus questions. I know a lot of you last week were asking where they went, and I've tried to provide a few of them this week. I'll have about 3, I think, for tonight's homework. So I also wanted to mention, too, if there's anyone that's willing to do their own presentation, either a commercial or a video similar to what I do, to explain some of the different components for MLA formatting, see me, and I will definitely give you some major bonus points if you're at all interested in doing that. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for listening tonight.